Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome into the Dragon's Den. Digital Dragon, I hope everyone's doing well today. Hey, Diablo Spawn. Hey, how you doing? How's it going? No problem, Diablo Spawn. Thank you for giving me a call and checking in with me and seeing if we had the part you needed. Sorry I didn't have that particular. Uh, we'll work on getting a few more parts in lab print. I have a few, I just did not have a bunch of them. Still trying to figure out what is normally needed on some of the bamboo printers because they've got thousands of SKUs. So it's really like which ones do you pick in stock? Thanks for giving me a call though. Hope everyone's doing well this evening. It's been a long day. I apologize for starting so late. Um, yeah, for those of you that don't know, we got a lot getting ready to go on in the next couple of days. So let's chat about that a little bit and say quote unquote. Um, as you all know, I run a shop called Digital Dragon 3. Recently opened up here in Sanford, North Carolina, and we are getting ready to have our first maker meetup here in the store tomorrow. So that starts from noon and goes until 7 p.m. tomorrow. So if you're in the local area and want to come out and join the maker community crowd here in Sanford, North Carolina, you know, kind of in between Raleigh and Fayetteville area. Come on out, give us you know, give us a visit. And the plan is we're going to do a little bit of hangout. We're going to talk about some of the projects that people have going on, and then we're going to have a discussion. It's not going to be like, oh, we're going to do PowerPoints and all this. It's going to be an open discussion about materials and material selection consideration, right? So what is the part you're trying to make? You know, what's it planned to do? What's the environment it's subjected to? And then let's make the best material choice based on cost trade-offs. Um, yeah, that's the discussion we're going to have tomorrow at the first Maker Meetup here at Digital Dragon 3D. And then on Tuesday, we have our ribbon cutting ceremony. This is a more official ceremony with the city. So we'll have the mayor, we'll have some representatives from the Stanford Area Growth Alliance, downtown, Stanford Inc., and a few other groups. You know, we're just going to have them here at 2, do an official ribbon cutting ceremony, you know, pictures, stuff posted online in the paper. So that'll be something cool to have going on. Also, we are getting ready to launch our classes here at the store. So once again, if you're in the local area, we will be starting to have classes. We're going to do classes on beginning 3D printing. So, you know, the simple basics of I got a 3D printer, now what? How do we slice? Where do we find files? If you get a 3D printer, most likely that 3D printer is going to give you the basics of a slicer, but not necessarily why I would change settings from the bare minimum. What would that do with my print? Um, you know, if you get a bamboo, you're going to be told about Maker World, not know about printables and things, Thingiverse, and all the other places have files. So we'll talk about things like that as well. Then we'll have a version of that for family, right? And some of that focus is going to be so you got your kids a 3D print. How can you support that? Work with them, show it how it show how it works and everything without taking over, right? Faults for AI garbage, yeah, yeah. So we'll come back to that in a second. So yeah, there's some of that that we'll be doing, and then we'll also have uh, 3D printer maintenance. So those are going to be like the first 3 classes we bring out. And then we're going to start getting into like Tinkercad 101, that type of stuff, and go from there. Start building out the classes. One of the other things that we were approached by Saga folks last 2 days at another ribbon cutting was about the library. So our local library is having a new building built, and it's going to be 5 or 6 times bigger current library. And part of that is going to be a maker space. They're going to have 3D printers and some other tools, and they're going to be looking for people that can teach classes and stuff like that out there. So that's one good way for us to potentially get our name out there, is to go and partner with the library. My understanding is they also haven't sourced any printers or anything like that yet. So, like, hey, we're going to try and see if we can't become a source for 3D printers, filaments, and other things for the local libraries that build out and kick off their building. Last night you bought an 85M Pro for under $200. That's a great deal, Diablo Spawn. Awesome. Maintenance is that fix it when it breaks. Well, so fix it when it breaks would be repair. Maintenance and preventive would be the things that you do ahead of time to keep the printer in good functioning order. Kind of like what we're supposed to do with our cars, right? Like everybody knows, or everybody should know and should have been taught at some point, that you should walk around your vehicle, check the tire pressure, check the oil, make sure your windshield wipers are in good shape before you get in the car and drive anywhere, right? Check your lights, make sure all your lights work and stuff. Yeah, who does that, right? We take it for granted. Just jump in the car and we go. And it's normally when we get pulled over that we realize we have a light out. So, or when we can't see, it's the windshield wiper sheared in half because one half's still stuck to the snow or the ice that's on the windshield. So yeah, so we're going to talk preventive maintenance, especially for new people to 3D printing that have their first 3D printer. And trust me, I don't do maintenance on my printers as routinely as I probably should. And part of that is because I'm tearing them apart and rebuilding them all the time. So yeah, this is something for me as well, and through the course of this, we're going to have to do kind of like a basic, like once a month, check belts, belts for wear, check belts for tension, once every month or once every other month, depending on how much you print. If you have a filter, off the filter, just like you do in your AC at home, right? AC at a business. You have to swap those filters on a periodic basis to keep them from causing problems, increasing your bill because your machine's having to work. Howie, you were waiting for index but getting tired of waiting. Well, I mean, I honestly haven't been paying attention to index. I know that they were selling index kits for cruises, but have they started shipping any? Or are you looking for index that you can install on anything? Because yeah, I'd love to throw index on Kyber Dragon, see the difference between a Stealthchanger and index. Because I have laid eyes on an index on a Boron. It does exist right now. One out at Formnext back in November. Of course, they also had one on the Prusa there as well. This is where they announced it. just buy more printers. I'm a little over a year into this hobby, and I just bought my 7th printer, and not one is the Diablo Spawn. I- I'm in that club. I had 32 printers. I've got 2 Voron 2.4 300s. One is one was an LDO Rev C kit. We've updated it to basically Rev D with a Leviathan and a Nighthawk 36, no, not a Nighthawk 36, Nighthawk Stealth Burner board. And it's got the Filomatrix, so it's got the filament cutter because we had a box turtle. The other one has had a carbon fiber gantry build on it, multiple tool head changes and rebuilds on it, and that's the one that we're currently making into our Stealthchanger. Hey, Eagle the Dragon, how's it going, buddy? You're not picky, either index for your Trident or 2.4 or get a Prusa. Not picky. Exactly. Exactly. Hey, Tinkering Techie, how's it going? Hopefully I get to see you tomorrow, Tinkering Techie, at the Maker Meetup. Again, we're having the Maker Meetup out here tomorrow, which is Sunday, March 1st from noon to 7. We're going to have kind of a agenda for the first part of the day. And then probably from about 3 o'clock on, it's, open discussion, working on projects, chatting around. So you find you print more single color than multicolor. Use H2D for multi-material. Okay, there we go. Quick cameo. Hi. Hey, Down Under Maker, how's it going, my friend? How goes the Delta Flyer build? I think I saw that you had some board issues going on. Getting index for Prusa Core 1. Now I have Box Journal and Vivid on your Voron. Silly to mess with it. Yeah. Yeah, and I got the Delta Flyer going. We've printed a few things. Still going to take a bit to tune that little guy in. I need to find a good place for him to live around here in the shop. We placed our order for Cheaty Tech. So we're going to have some Q2Cs, Q2s, and Max 4s coming in with the combos and without. Seen a couple of people recent videos on the Max 4. I'll tell you, I like my Max 4. I ordered the Max 4 at Forum Next last year in November when they were announced, and I got to lay hands and eyes on it. I really liked my Q2. I got talked out of my Q2. Should currently be down in Tampa for a couple of months with somebody that's down there with their job. So, yeah, we'll be getting a few more printers in soon. You have news about the Delta Flyer and a poor software design choice that was made. Working on a fix to allow USB ports to be interesting. Yeah, I need to figure out what was going on with that. I'm not using any of the USB ports on mine. I just built it stock the way it came, and I'm not sure. I didn't see all of your streams, so I'm not sure what the issue was that you were having. I just saw that you were having some type of issue. Been a bit scatterbrained. Can't use tool head boards or touch screens because of the issue. There we go. Okay, so there's something borked with the USB drivers on that board, I'm assuming. So you wouldn't be able to attach any type of touch screen Would that kind of thing? It's a CB1, so you cannot use a CSI, or I'm sorry, a DSI touchscreen, which means you'd have to use like the HDMI and USB, which is weird because I had an HDMI 7 running on on one of my 0G Mercury ones. My big one had a 7-inch HDMI display. You think through that. Pretty sure it had a C1 on it. But yeah, this is an all-in-one board, which would be different. Um, hey, Adam, how's it going? Welcome in. You have the USB power run off a GPIO that isn't on by default. Oof. Interesting. Um, yeah, that's interesting, Howie and Down Under Maker, because there was a part of me that was like, why isn't there a screen on this? I'd love to throw a screen on this. Maybe just have it sitting on the top of the printer, and that's kind of interesting that that wasn't working. Sorry, I'm gonna swap chairs here. We're going into a long week, or not a long week, weekend. Tomorrow we've got the Maker Meetup, and then the stuff on Tuesday with the city. And my back was extra sore this morning for some reason. So, no USB power means the HDMI can't be detected as there's no handshake with the display controller. And also on those, like the HDMI displays, it's normally the HDMI output is doing the display and USB is running the touchscreen side of things. So you might have a display, but you don't have a touch screen to actually use the display for any display data. Not with the CB1 itself, it's the implementation on the DZ01 board that is designed and used with the Delta Flyer kit. So if I remember right, the DZ01 board was supposed to be a commercial only board and not, I'll say, like for us consumers. So it may have been crippled by default for specific application use. Yeah, this is actually the CB1 is directly embedded on the board. It's like the old MKS where we took the Arduino and the ramps and slapped them on the same board. That's exactly what they've done. Is they took the CB1 and put it on the board together with everything. And so it's interesting because you have the H616 with an RPi 2040 that runs the MCU, with the H616 being the system on a chip or the host. There's also a version with dual RP 2040s. So if you remember, was it the 2040 or the second chip in that lineup that now has the ability to run a Linux side of things? But anyhow, that's the issue, is that it's something with the actual design of the board. USB ports don't turn on unless Clipper is actually running. So Clipper, the board would have to boot up with Clipper, and then it would light that GPIO. Supersized Trident or rat rig? Hey Havoc, how's it going? Um, I mean, bigger than a Rat Rig 500? Don't know. So, uh, other topics that we wanted to talk about. We had, mentioned some of the repairs that we had coming in. So we had a FlashForge Creator. We had a couple of FlashForge Creator Pro 2s that came in. One was working fine, and they were wanting more control over the IDEX feed, right? They're trying to print miniatures, like 38 mil and stuff miniatures, 38, whatever the size is. And they wanted to use PVA as support. The problem is FlashForge does not let you set different temps in the nozzle. It's all one temp. So you're printing at PLA temps in the 210 range, and you're cooking the PVA in the other nozzle. And when I say cooking PVA in the other nozzle, um, this, I mean, that's for me squishing it to pull this out. But this came out of the nozzle. I have since swapped them over because we took the tool heads apart, or I did today, and pulled these out. Interestingly enough, one had PTFE tube, the other one didn't. Don't ask me why. And so I had to cut PTFE tube and and replace those. But it's just in the heat break from the cold zone block down, or the extruder down into the nozzles. Um, so we got those replaced, and I also, interestingly enough, um, flashed Clipper on the stock board. So I have a Manta M8P sitting over here that was plan A, was going to put that in that other FlashForge Creator. Because what we did is the board that came in that was known working, he agreed to rebrain it so that he can get more control over it, both from a software like slicer side and just print functionality capability. And so we wound up taking the board out of that and putting it in a different one that had come in, that the coordinates were completely borked on it as far as the x-axis. So we did a brain swap there. It came up, was working as expected, printed just fine. That customer left. So now we had a standard board that was not good because the firmware was borked. Well, came across some information and had to bust out the trusty ST link, right? Trusty ST link, and flashed that board, which is a STEM 32. I think it was a STEM 32 H407 controller or chip. So I flashed that yesterday and got Clipper on it. So that standard FlashForge board is now running Clipper, and I got everything wired back up and was able to pin tune both hot ends, the bed, just leveled everything, and I need to start working on the IDEX offset stuff and push some plastic on it, see how we're doing. Now, with using that board, we'll have a Raspberry Pi that we'll need to either tuck up underneath and switch from a USB communications over to UART, or talk to the guy who's one of our one of Evil Diesel's buddies. Say, do you want it tucked up underneath, or do you want it just sitting on the side? as a Raspberry Pi, or do you want us to go to a full Manta? Because if we go to the full Manta, we're going to wind up cutting wires and redoing a bunch of wires. Um, one of the issues that we'll have is that board has thermocouples, or not the board. Spool heads use thermocouples, and there's a breakout board at the top of each one of the tool head housings, and there's logic in there. ADS 1118. So we can't just take that wire and plug that signal into a thermistor port on the Manta. It's not going to work. So we'll have to run all new connections and bypass that, bring it all the way back. And we're getting ready to have an ad start, but we'll snooze. Why not? Ad in Twitch land. We'll snooze that for a minute. We also have a FlashForge Dreamer, which is another same type of thing. It's dual print head. It's dual extruder, dual nozzle, single print head, right? So it's not an IDEX. The two nozzles move together, but you have two physical nozzles that you print with. Hey, Waters, how's it going? And it came to us via Waters and Ecovate 3D. So looking at it, it appears as if it may have been a firmware issue, because the motors and all of the motors are, it feels like they're in half step or full step mode, right? The motors, you can feel the hard step, and it's in all of the motors. So we bypassed the motor. We tried a fresh motor, tried fresh wire and motor. We swapped steppers out. We swapped steppers in from another board. Same issue all the way around. So it's something in the firmware. We've tried moving it to the latest firmware and going back to the original firmware that came with the printer. Issue still there. I don't know what it is. Now, the other thing that we did notice was it looks fuzzy skin when you're printing something round. Print something that's square or rectangular, you see everything is a pattern going diagonally, right? So that leads me to looking at a belt issue. When we did that, we started looking real hard, and we noticed that at least the idler bearing on the x-axis, it's looking like it needs help. So I ordered some bearings. We're going to get those in, see if we can't swap one of those bearings over and get it into a better mode and see if that solves the problem. Right now, I'm thinking it's more mechanical. Tooth idlers, and they're not standard GT tooth idlers. Meaning they're a skinnier, they're not like a 20 tooth idler. I think they're more like a 14. They use a non-standard idler than what we normally use. So yeah, that's why I had to go and source out some from a place that still sells stuff. And I think these are ones that have been recovered from machines, because some things in this place are listed as new, some are listed as right. So I'm rolling the dice on it. Well, I mean, the newer stuff is, but some of the older stuff, yeah, it was very, very wonky. The Robo 3D is still sitting over there. It's been repaired, working, and customers been called. We also got in a 350 Voron. It was not a 350 Voron, Waters. It was a Trudon V1 400 by 400 by 500. So if you're familiar, the Formbot Bimbadino, what it announced, Trudon is a Voron-like machine. Oh, I know, Waters. I know. Hey, Timor, welcome on in. It's a Voron-like machine that uses some metal parts, some injection molded parts, and wires that just make you scratch your head. And I say that because it's almost like the Optimus P1, just not as bad. It's every wire running to the tool head is a 4-conductor wire, but it's like the thickness of my pinky. And so rather than doing a standard tool head and maybe running a tool head board, it's running like 8 frickin' wires, which means they need this really oversized, thick cable chain. So I'm going to talk to AJ and we're going to see what we're going to do, because the other nice Formbot special, here's the card out of that board. This is not the right wireless antenna, because the Wi-Fi antenna had 3 breaks in it, to include being ripped out from that little UFL connector right here. So when you say Formbot special, this is a Formbot special duet board. This is a Duet 2 and Dukes, D-U-E-X, combined. So the Duet 2 only had 5 drivers. This at a minimum needs 7. So they added the Dukes board and custom did the board. Now, that was the kit supplier for Wolfgang's 352.4. Well, that explains a bit. Yeah, so this isn't a bad board, right? This is a duet board. It uses a panel do, or excuse me, yeah, it's a panel do, panel DUE touchscreen. Problem we're having right now is the firmware seems to be borked, and it will not give you, like, you click on macros, it's a blank screen. You see something like macro-y pop up for just a second and it blanks out. But yeah, I mean, this is a solid board. To Down Under Maker's comment, I think we're out of ad. I think we're out of ad. It is a solid board. It's a combination of 2 different boards. The connectors I like. The connectors are very robust in the Duet stuff that I've seen. The stepper drivers are annoying because of they're an odd size. The step sticks are a weird odd size. But there is a way of putting clipper on this as well. There's a lot of people that are swapping this out and just swapping everything over to a Manta or an Octopus and going crazy with it. I am annoyed because looking at the way everything's wired up, the SSR is the SSR does switch the load side, and the connection between the power supply through a very wonky DIN rail style screw down block was made with an oversized blue wire versus the red wire. So at first you're looking at it and I was just scratching my head like something is wrong with this wiring. And I traced it all out and it's wired correctly just with the wrong color wire, which could be bad, right? But yeah, this board to what you were saying down under Maker is an Atmel ATS AM4E8E. And this ARM board, you are capable of putting Clipper on it. So you can actually run Clipper on this board, and people are. So I need to get with AJ and find out, does he want me to try and keep this as brain fart. Does he want to keep this as Duet and RepRap firmware? Does he want me to clipperize this board, which would also require me, I believe, to get rid of the panel do and go to a different display? I'm not sure how I would connect that display. Or does he want me to get rid of this altogether and go with a different board in it, like an octopus got sitting around here, and we could bring it fully into the Clipper area? So I've got to get with the customer and figure out what they want me to do. I think what I'm going to get is we just want it working. Big machine, we got a couple of parts off of it, we want it to work. And I would love to get the get a tool head board on there and get rid of a lot of the wires that are going over. Hey Timor, can you see chat here? I can see chat on both sides. Hey Penguin Makers, welcome in. I can see chat on both sides. Do I look over at the chat? That's, that's typical me. I don't necessarily look at the chat on both sides all the time. What I've been doing is popping the YouTube chat window out and moving it to the other screen. And that way I can see both chat feeds. Over on the right screen that I've got all of my OBS software on. Left side, as we're working manuals, whatever, we can bring that up. Yeah, reading chat while streaming is hard. That is true. It was designed around RepRap firmware and likely lacks the grunt and a bunch of drivers. True. Like I said, there are people that have put Clipper over on that board. It's just like everything else. You can run Duet, quote unquote, headless and do everything from here and use the Wi-Fi from this board. And this runs the RepRap web control interface. Or you can put a Raspberry Pi and talk to it via this thing over here, which is a USB, and run your, basically turn this into just the MCU, just like we do a Clipper, and run your web stuff over on the Raspberry Pi or other single board computer. Yeah. Raspberry host makes way more sense. Well, and that's what we did in the black box. So the black box, which is the 5-head tool changer, is a Duet 3 and a Duet 3, actually Duet 3 high current and a Duet 3 extension board high current, right? So we've got both boards there, and then we run a Raspberry Pi as a host controller for the whole thing. Very interesting setup. But yeah, that's what I've been working on, is just working on some of the repairs that are coming in here. And partly because I keep looking at the Stealthchanger. Okay, where am I? What am I going to do next? Right? I know I don't have to use the modified Sexbolt Z touch probe point, but that can be used to do all the alignment. And looking at the instructions, that can be mounted in the back where you normally do the Z end stop, so to speak, for a 2.4, or you could slide the bed back some and mount it at the front, which gains you more print area because the bed's been moved back, and as you get higher, you're not going to be limited with an exclusion zone at the front of the print, right? So there's some options there that we can. I still need to do the umbilicals, and the back plate that I put on there is for the screw-in, I believe it's the cable glands, the PG7s that came in the kit, versus the TPU like plugs. Each has different ways of mounting the flat spring material that you would use. I think at the tool head side, it's all the same. It's the other side that would be different on how you mount that spring material, the way you have to bend it and stuff, or not bend it. Make it the better choice. You know, that it might be, Timor. There's plenty of room under this thing. Once again, it's a 400 by 400 by 500. It's a weird size. It also uses, I believe it's an in 9 rail mounted to the top. And there are ways that you can move. There's a rail mounted at the top, and it looks like it could take a rail mounted at the bottom as well, which would give it better rotational stability. There are ways that you can put a MGN12 on the front and go to a front mount like a standard Voron, but then you're basically redoing the entire gantry mount system. So you're tearing the whole gantry down and rebuilding it. And I can do that. I don't know if I want to, and I don't know if they're going to want to as well, because that's going to be a full, like I said, that's going to be a lot more time in it. There's a difference when it's mine and when it's the customer's. So I just need to get with the customer and figure out what they want done. Yeah. And I'm not too worried about it tinkering techie. Like, I very rarely have ever used the full height on a print in a Boron anyway. So I'm not too worried about that. I just need to. So here's where the instruction manual, I'll say, kind of goes awry, right? Pull that up. Right. Pull up full display over here. Whatever reason went to that camera, don't lie. There. So on the full display here, you've got your different build guides. It talks about the assembly. This is the overarching kind of, hey, here's a suggested order to build this. This is showing the printed top hat. We've got the panel top hat that came in the kit. Got that built and it's sitting up on top of the printer. I haven't put the actual hinge pins in it yet because it's just sitting there. Be easier not to have it on. But it talks about the back plates, cable management, right? You're like, all right, we're going to do cable management. Install the fanny pack, what the fanny pack is, install the fanny pack. It talks about the umbilicals and how to, we'll say, route the umbilicals, bend it into shape depending on how you're going to do it, right? So this is the TPU press-in. So we won't have to do this one because that's not the one that we're doing, style. We still need to have this type of things, and either I missed it or I just need to grab the print files and print these parts. They're supposed to be done in TPU. Obviously, a few of them per each umbilical. So you'll have the spring wire, the PTFE wire on one side, and the USB cable on the other. And you'll have this end, and this end is going to be the locking for the the whatchamacallit, spring seal. And PTFE tube will go into the tool head. Of course, your other one will plug in, and bada bing, bada boom. Okay. Notice it didn't tell you how to connect it to the tool head, and it didn't tell you how to connect it into the hexa at the back. Ant head, hot end fan mount kind of sucks. More of a dragon burner guy. Yeah, I think I went for the ant head because one, that was a suggested, and two, because I'm doing a 300 and putting an all-wheel drive in it, if I went with dragon burner, which I have installed on a couple of printers, I think I would only comfortably get 3 heads. I wouldn't be able to get a 4th head in there. Order came in super fast. Awesome, Agent Cola. Awesome. Not compatible with EBB Gen 2 boards. Are you referring to the Stealthchanger there down under Maker, or a different printer? Because we're running the Nighthawk 36. It's a full LDO set of kits that I got. LDO did provide them to me, and they provided the all-wheel drive kit as well, which is why we've been doing all of the build on stream, talking about LDO piece in it. Awesome. But on calibration tools, it talks about the sex ball probe and installing that. So I have all the parts here to install this. I just hadn't yet. And then it goes with the door buffers, the modular docks, shuttles, tool heads, top hats, and user mods. Nowhere does it talk about the cabling to the hexa or from the hexa down to the main controller. So that umbilical support design isn't compatible with the Big Tree Tech. Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, and my Stealthchanger, and that's the thing. I mean, if you look truly at the Stealthchanger stuff, you can run a crazy amount of backplates. Like I said, backplate wise, we're looking the A4T, another 4010 tool head, the Ant head, the Blackbird, the Dragon burner, the Jabberwocky, the Rapid burner, Stealth burner, Zoll, Yavoth, and even more. There are others that are out there, user mods. It's just crazy the number of tool heads that you can run. So you can pretty much get whatever kind of tool head you want. Um, I'm trying to keep it simple because this could easily get way out of control. And I just did the ant heads. We are using the LDO equipment that came in the kits, which means we'll be doing the Nighthawk 36 on all of these. CAN bus is designed to do this. And I will tell you, there is massive philosophical discussions about that one down under me. Jabberwocky is hot garbage. I have a Jabberwocky over here that I built from a kit. I've got another Jabberwocky kit. It'll probably get built and go on something, but it seems like it would be a great build, except I have never gotten the filament cutter to be smooth. It always has hung somewhere um in the movement. And a filament cutter that does not that isn't reliable and consistent is about useless, right? Because you'll always be chasing problems with. But down under maker, yes, with USB, the hubs and stuff like that, could get interesting. And everybody talks about USB having better bandwidth and more bandwidth than CAN bus does. I see both sides, and I think both sides have a place. Like, I will tell you, I've got so many USB things plugged into this streaming PC. It is crazy. And I think that's some of the reason why I have the issues with the cameras freezing. But I am even going through a powered hub it's the OSB bot hub that they say if you're running multiple 4K USB bot cameras or OBS bot cameras, use this hub, use our hub, and I'm still having issues. Be able to retract filament from the extruder. Yeah, it's a Warner stuck cutter, exactly. Howie DeWitt, how many hours? Zero. This has never been fitted on a machine. It's like I said, this keeps jamming, and until I figure this out, it will not go on a machine. And I've got it set up as a display right now until I can figure out why that's jamming. And I know that there were new parts. There are some revised parts out there for the Jabberwocky. I don't know if it was all printed parts or some mechanic or hardware. But yeah. Couldn't get the leaf cutter on the ant head working well. Ended up putting a crossbow. And Tinkering Techie, it might have been you that we talked about it at the grand opening, but I've heard that about the leaf cutter versus the crossbow. And I actually have a crossbow sitting in my cart on AliExpress, just trying to decide if I'm ever going to push the button and get one in. Went A4T with crossbow. And I've never built an A4T or was it the A5T that Nut Creator just built with what, dual 5015s? I have not seen the RX Projects toolhead. Yours was built as revision 82, still junk. Gotcha. RX version V2 boron tool head. Let's take a look at that. Jimmy John has been helping you with Vivid and Box Turtle side by side as an 8-spool tool on your 2.4. Ramming has solved the niggles I had with both. Yeah, and see, that's the thing with Box Turtle is because I was part of the Box Turtle beta tester group, right? I built a dozen of them. And I built the first 4 or 5 I built with MMBs and the secondary board for the motor controller. Right? That's where we were at. And it's come a long way. And I think it's a very great design. I love the Box Turtle. But once again, there's two ways to do it. You can tune the ever-loving bejesus out of tip forming, like Bruce says it's done with the MMU3, or you're cutting and purging. Those are your 2 options. I haven't seen a way, and cutting and purging came into popularity with the bamboos, and it works great. I've had it work very well on the Box Turtle. Yeah, 15 BQ H2 V2S extruders. Timor, I have used the BQ H2 V2S extruder hot end on the Ender XY build. No, I take that back. That was the H2 V2S Lite. Yeah, and I also need to get back on the Ender 3 NG. I need to recut some extrusions and get that going again. Yeah, it's extrusions that I foobarred, so it's on me to fix it. Like it? Okay. The RX looks cool, but I don't think it will work with Stealthchanger at this time. Yeah. Yeah, the Ender 3 XY, the BQ H2 V2S, like I said, I think it's the Lite that I have on, or that I had on that Ender 3 XY. And the Ender 3 XY as a whole, I was like, the more I tried to play with it, the more I realized that design was not fully baked out. Yeah, so this is just a CPAP-based extruder. Is that an H2? Interesting. I have not looked into this. I'll take a look at it. But yeah, coming back here, there's probably somebody that's played around with CPAP design for Stealthchanger. I'll tell you this, unless they can get the noise level down on CPAP, I don't run my VZBot 235 because that CPAP is so freaking loud. And the thought of having 4 or 5 going at the same time on a Stealthchanger would drive me insane. We're about to be in the Marlin configuration mines troubleshooting an SKR Turbo 1.4 that a customer brought in running their Ender 5 Plus. Good luck. Oh, I've got the muffler on my VZ bot. It does not help. Yeah, yeah. Avia might need to be informed. Oh, is Avia going with trying to do CPAP on the Stealthchanger? Well, Micro Center was trying to find a home for him too, Timor, and you were the lucky recipient. Vivid in drying mode. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. But yeah, the um yeah, so that's kind of where I've been at on the Stealthchanger is just trying to figure out what the next step is. And we can do the sex bolt, figure out how to wire that in, whether or not I'm going to move the bed to make that happen. And then she has the CPAP on her machine. She was praying the soul CPAP at the last Ecovate Maker meetup. There you go. Yeah, I mean, CPAP does what it does, right? It's great for cooling. Don't get me wrong. I wear a CPAP every night, but running a CPAP full blast as a cooler for your parts cooling fan, it's it's just loud. It is loud, and it's not something that if you did that on a Stealthchanger and you had 4, 5, or 6 tool heads, so you had 4, 5, or 6 of those running, it would be crazy. Yeah, muffler or not, I don't know which one that he was using. Um, yeah, I think we all wear a CPAP these days. Yep. Um, the I guess I just need to hunker down and just start doing it. It shouldn't be hard, even though there's no wiring diagram or any wiring stuff in there at all that I can see. Because the power and electronics, it just talks about, unless it's changed, wattage calculation, whether or not you might need additional power supplies, going to 48 volt, yada, yada, yada. We went 48 volt to run the gantry, and that pulled 4 motors off the 24 volts, so that should give us plenty of headroom, hopefully. The tool head board is the discussion of whether to do, pick and choose which one you're going to run. Um, the only links that are here is to where to buy them and more info on them. So nothing about how to connect them. Same thing here with all of these boards is where to go buy them. Well, we've got a Nighthawk Hexa, so we don't to buy one, got one. I just need to know how to install it, right? So I think that's where it is I'm just gonna have to figure that part out and go with it. And then yeah, just start figuring that part out, down and do it. I just need to throw one out here on the bench and start building the helicals. So we'll work on that. Like I said, we've had a few things in here to repair. We've got the maker meetup day tomorrow. Your carpooling with the Via tomorrow. Okay, are you going to be here before 3? I'm just asking. Mrs. Dragon wanted me to ask. An army of Earth Vaders at night. Exactly. There you go. Darth Vaders. Yep. Yep. Um, yeah. And I'll see. Well, I know I had a box turtle here. Um, that box turtle now needs some new parts because apparently things were put on it that shouldn't have been on it, and it broke like one of the whole corners out and stuff. So I may need to rebuild that one anyhow. The plan was to rebuild all mine, but yeah. Arrive at the start. Okay, let's start. We start at noon ish. We'll get into the conversation, like I said, around 1:30. And I want to try and see who all shows up and tailor the conversation to who's here some. And it's going to be somewhat of an open conversation about material selection uh, um, decisions and stuff, or considerations. There we go. Because I've had a lot of people that have come in that are using 3D printing in this local area for RC vehicles, right? Whether cars or airplanes. There will be different design choices or material choices, right? Um, cosplay, things of that nature. So that's where we're going to have some discussions. I think I have to head back halfway through-ish to go close for Bev. Okay, not a problem. Box Turtle Rev 1.1 is coming out as a kit in a few weeks. Yeah, I know. Down under Maker. When we had the grand opening, I was making comments, and Thunder Keys, who's a big part of the Box Turtle or Armored Turtle Discord, let me know that, and I just kind of shook my head and frowned a little bit. I'm like, you're killing me here. I guess there's going to be a redesign again of the extruders and a redesign of the coolers. Should be there at noonish tomorrow as well. All right, cool, Tinkering Techie. New extruder gears out for them now. Yeah, and Thunder Keys was telling me that a lot of it was people couldn't set the backlash right. Well, so here's the thing. A lot of people are building box turtles because they're a cheaper, more open source, and they can be put on anything where an AMS can't, right? The AMS can't, the CFS can't. Vivid's going to be the first thing that's supposedly usable across the ecosystem, right? So I believe they went with the new, what gear were they going to? That just allowed the backlash to be just, you're done. But anyhow, I will at some point rebuild all mines. BMCU, couldn't we use AMS community protocol and port it over to regular Clipper? We've officially moved Vivid testing to the AFC software. What were they using? Were they using Happy Hair for Vivid? Because I know at some point or at one point I talked to him on the AFC side of, you know, it's good, but you need to take some things from Happy Hair. Like it was all being direct hard coded without some modularization. And I'm like, there's some stuff that you don't want people messing with. It needs to just go over there in this file and be called in as an include. And then there's things that you want people to mess with. Big Tree Tech wanted to go in house, but it wasn't a good experience. Yeah. BMCU had their whole software firmware open source. Well, that's good since the AFS wasn't, and the BMCU is basically that's the BMCU is the one that replaces the AFC Lite. Is that correct, Waters? Did I just say AFC light? AMS light. Oh, okay. Which one does it replace or mimic? Does both AMS light and okay. Yeah, I mean, there's so many options out there now for multicolor. There really is. Um, it's just which one makes the most sense to you at that time. So uh, that's kind of where we're at here tonight. Haven't kind of tired. That's why we're chatting and not building. I'll leave it that way. I'm acts like an AMS light for the A1 and S1 for the X1. Haven't tested the okay. Well, and I mean that's the thing. It's talking over the same lines, or I mean it's talking over CAN bus, right? Get your showroom P2 soon. It's a customer return that we worked with them on. Nice. Yeah, I saw that I'm able to order P2S combos now. Um, and we'll just say decisions were made not to. Thought it was Modbus rather than CAN bus. I'm not sure. I mean, yeah, that's the thing. I'm not 100% sure which bus they used. Um, that the buses and the communication protocols of that particular nature are kind of not my wheelhouse. I was more of the network side of things versus the the CAN bus and Modbus stuff. It's open source by a bunch of Chinese netizens. Okay, that's one way of putting it. But yeah, I um don't know. I just completely lost my train of thought. So um yeah, looking at the printers that I have in house and the printers that I've been working on, um, we have come so far. I mean, I'm working on these FlashForge Creator 2 Pros, and they're only a handful of years old. And they've been, yeah, I was going to say abandoned. Abandoned is kind of a hard word, but yeah, they've been abandoned. The firmware is not updated, hasn't been updated in a couple of years. The software has been completely abandoned. You have to, we're pulling versions of the software out from the Internet Archive, right? It's just kind of bad. Um, and with all the new slicers, you kind of go back and you work on one of these older machines, and you're like, how did we survive back in the days with this limited, slicer, right? It's pretty bad when you're looking at flash print and you're going, God, I miss Cura. I haven't used Cura in probably 5, 6 years now. It's just kind of crazy. Ugh. Oh yeah, exactly. Waters, especially over in China where you can go to one of the stores and get motors for like pennies on the dollar, right? Um, like right now, in fact, I think I hear that the printer's done. So let me go. If it is done, I'll grab this print off. Uh-oh. I will say decidedly the print was not done, but um black PET GCF with um when you have spaghetti detection turned on will trigger your spaghetti detection um just as it detects the infill, right? So I've had that happen a few times. I'm gonna have to turn the spaghetti detection down on the Max 4, but let me bring this over here. I'll switch the camera feed. Oy. And we'll show you once again 4 foot long. We've got a couple of the um, planes on it. Everywhere where you see the little double dots, that's a magnet location. So we showed this off to our Navy guy last night. It was kind of funny. And they had a blast. This thing is freaking awesome. And it is huge. If you're here tomorrow for the Maker Meetup, you will get a chance to see it. I need to post some pictures on the interwebs because, believe it or not, on the floor here, it's a light bluish gray. At least it looks bluish gray to me. It looks pretty good. Yeah, to get it here was Rev D before around $70 before the tariffs hit. Yeah. And that's what I'm seeing is tariffs are hitting again. And yeah. But I do have a whole series of printers that will be coming in the next week or so. We got a few more colors from Bamboo and EPAX in. Funny story. So I had somebody come in that recently got a FlashForge 85M, right? Not the Pro, just the 85M. First printer, and they got some filament. Well, they came back, and they came in 3 times today. They were my only customers today. They came in, got filament, left, came back, got more filament, left, and then came back again and got more filament. And they're probably going to be here tomorrow. So, just kind of crazy. It's the second couple. So we had another couple that came in and got their first ever printer, bought like 7 rolls of filament, and has been back 3 times in 2 weeks buying more filament. So 3D printing is alive and well. It's out there. People are still enamored with it and get excited with it. So that's good to see. Yeah, always fun to build up regulars. In fact, Waters, we had last weekend, we had a couple of folks that came over from your side that said that they've heard a lot from you guys about shop down here. So they came down and checked it out. For the life of me, I cannot remember his name. We had a gentleman that came in asking if we could print some files for him. He came in, we got the files, we started looking at them, and I was like, okay, we're gonna have some problems with these files. A couple of them came out right size where you bring the 3MFs in, and then others were like tiny, tiny, tiny. So we were going to have to figure out the sizing. And the more we looked into it, we were like, okay, it, these are not going to print. I think they basically got duped, and what they've got is texture files, not full thickness files. So we actually helped them do up a documentation for a complaint through, I don't know if it was Fiverr or whatever he had used to get to the person, but they're not printable files. Yeah, and so once that all is done with, I think they are going to come back to us and work with us on trying to get some assets that are printable. So we have a new regular that should be stopping by for the maker meetup as well. They're from past Raleigh, so I don't know if they'll be coming your way regularly. Oh, gotcha. Oh, that's fine. Yeah. So yeah, that's, you know, whether the thing is sized right or not, and whether or not it's manifold and, you know, proper thickness to make it printable. I mean, it was great digital asset, but that's not a printable design. What he got was a 3D digital asset, not a 3D printable design. And apparently they paid decent money for it. So they're going and filing a complaint through the service, and work with them when that's all squared away. And then I got a call not too long ago, right close to closing time, about somebody wanting a custom case for an electronics project. So they'll be coming by in a couple of days, and we'll sit down and chat with them about that. You're struggling to get a rock that still has some kind of resolution scaled up to print on the Optimus. Yeah, that's the problem too, is we want to scale files, but files can only scale so much, because at the end of the day, any organic model is meshes. So, and high poly is expensive from a memory standpoint. So a lot of times they will reduce the poly count, which is fine on a typical size model or even like this. But when you try and go to a full meter height, it turns into a low poly MOA, you know? It's just the way it is. Hey Pete, how's it going? Welcome on in. Hope you're doing well, my friend. You know what I mean? And so you do have to be careful with scaling things and how high you can scale it, and have to have a really good digital asset. Yeah, more like a low poly Pokemon. Yeah. But yeah, we've got a couple of projects that we're working on for some people. We've got a good amount of printer repairs coming in. Like I said, I'm going to try that pulley to see if replacing that pulley will help things out, waters on that FlashForge Dreamer. But if not, I'm quickly running into a wall of what it could be, because it's showing up on all directions. It's either I think it's the x-axis. I'm going to replace the pulley, replace the belt, see if that fixes the problem. If it doesn't, I don't know what else to try, because, like I said, I've tried 3 different versions of the firmware. So it's either stuck or something. The only other thing that I can remotely think of doing is factory refresh, or factory reset, and then dump in the latest version of the um, firmware on there, And if that doesn't work, potentially using the STEM 32 and erasing, just flat out erase everything and drop the firmware on it again. That might be the only way that we can get whatever is stuck in there with the lack of micro stepping cleared. But we'll have to see. Hey, Dank Think Tank, how's it going? Oh. We are just in chatting mode. We got started a little late tonight. So my mother-in-law and brother-in-law are out here visiting, and Mrs. Dragon and her mom were here hanging out with us today, and it was after 7:30 before they left, and I prefer not to start streaming if one of them are still in the store, because invariably Mrs. Dragon has a tendency to clean, and she will not be paying attention. She'll throw her headphones in and not pay attention, and all of a sudden she'll start vacuuming something, right? And then I try to wait until they leave before we start. So we did get a late start. Probably going to head out soon. Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. I'm looking forward to seeing you out here again too, Waters. You need to bring the whole crew. And at some point, you need to tell Clover that they're not allowed to have a life every weekend, and they need to come down and see the store. Right? They cannot have a life. Because the rest of us don't have. The rest of us don't have one. I mean, it's pretty bad when we come into the shop and we're like, "Hey, honey, I'm home." They're like, "Oh, crap! I walked into the store, not home, but I am because I'm here 7 days a week." Yeah, what's a life? Exactly. So yeah, like I said, we've got a few projects. I'm really interested in that FlashForge Creator Pro and running Clipper on that printer and seeing how that actually works and seeing what we can actually get done with Clipper on the stock FlashForge boards, because the boards look well made. They're pretty darn robust, right? And if I need to put the Manta M8P in there, I will without thinking twice about it. But I want to see what it does with the stock board and make that decision. And we've got time on this one. This isn't a repair, got to get it back to the customer type thing. This is a buddy, and he wants it to work. So we've got a little bit of time to try and play with it. We actually took 2 days off the past 2 weeks. Nice. Very nice. And tacos. Like I wanted, so I had to go into the office on Thursday. And I was really wanting to come by and grab tacos on Thursday. But yeah, I was in the office. I got breakfast, and then we wound up having lunch. And I was so darn full that there was no chance for tacos. And I got out a little bit late with the rainy crud all day. I just wanted to get back down here out of Raleigh. So have I ever looked at the Manta E3EZ? Yes. The Manta E3EZ is one half of the controller setup on my NX Engineering. So I'm running 2 MCU controller boards on the NX Engineering K3. The X and Y gantries, which are 4 motors, cross XY, they're running 48 volts off of the Constellation Supernova board, an RPI 2040 base board. And you have to have some type of standard controller that can do all the fans and stuff, because the Supernova, actually any of the Annex engineering boards are stepper drivers and stops. That's it. You have no fan, no heaters, no nothing else. So I'm running the Manta, or no, I'm take that back. It's not the Manta. It's it is the E3 SKR Mini E3 EV board, not the Manta E3. So I've got the standard E3 EZ board, not the Manta version. Because I'm running a regular Raspberry Pi on the back of the 7 or whatever the long screen is that I'm running vertically on. I mean, that looks pretty good. I have not run one yet, but I mean, just about anything that can drop into a standard Ender 3 is a good drop in. The quicker you drop it into an Ender 3, the better the Ender 3. It came up. It still came up. No worries. Um, yeah, the TFT 35 SPI display. They're a bit laggy, but they work. We're gonna have to figure something out for FlashForge because FlashForge won't be able to use the stock display, I don't think, and the Trudon as well. If we move from if we either clipperize that board or move from the Trudon V1 board, which is a custom duet board, to a more standard clipper based board, we would have to swap out the display as well. And I would rather not, well, you can do a Manta board, but run a CB2 or a standard Raspberry Pi compute module. And I got news for you. If you don't have it on hand, it ain't coming cheap. Because memory prices are through the roof for everything. And all of our SBCs have flash memory on them or eMMC memory embedded, and all of it, all types of memory are going bonkers right now because of AI. Yeah. It was $50 from the South Carolina reseller a month ago. What is it now? And which version of the CM4? How much memory? Was it a light or did it have eMMC? That's the thing is, preferably I would like to have eMMC on it if I'm doing a standard compute. But nowadays, I'm probably going light. Because at least the SD cards aren't as bad yet. But yeah, anything that's running a Manta has SD card boot. The Manta does have SD card boot, but you can make it boot directly from. What if my brain has, that's the problem is I see a lot of things that I need to work on, Motivation is low and the desire to go sleep is high. CM4 we had from Big Tree Tech, the flash went read only and wouldn't SD card boot because it's not a. Okay, trying to wrap my head around that. So the CM4 you got from Big Tree Tech, flash went read only, wouldn't SD card boot, not a C. Oh yes, if you've got a CM4 with eMMC, it will not boot from the SD card because it's going to default to the it'll default back to eMMC. That's what killed the CM4 you had on the Optimus. We had a Manta board on the Optimus, right? Or did I put an Octopus? So it was a Manta board, and the CM4 went Tango Uniform one. So will you bring the CM4 module back to me? That killed? So I'm curious to see if I can get it to run in a sled or something else. Still haven't picked up your CB2? Okay, now I'm confused. Did I have a CB2 in it and then you guys put a Compute Module 4 in it? You had to go to CM4 for AFC Lite. Don't know why, but that's fine. I have not picked up my CB2 that I'm aware of because I have not been down there. And, well, let me rephrase it. The last 2 times I went down there, I was supposed to pick up a printer. Who brought the printer back? Because it wasn't me. Timer 2 closed, constantly crashing Clipper. Okay. And I don't necessarily think that is a CB. I think people consider it a CB2 issue, but it can be caused by a bunch of different things. Because I just had a similar issue happen, and it's a single setting in the. You have to go into one of the Clipper Python modules and change the TR sync and make it a little bit bigger, and then some of that goes away. But I do not remember picking up a CB2 because I do not have a CB2 out and about laying around. So I would say the CB2 is probably somewhere around there. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And part of that is because they're chasing things in Clipper that they don't have direct control of. And troubleshooting will become easier on a compute module versus uh, Big Tree Tech CB12. But that's where I would say It was a working printer. And trying to print something on a 600 by 600 by 1100 bed takes time. Trying to make that do multicolor is I kind of scratched my head as a why. And I think you were using it just to do multi-spool, and you would be so much better off with the Infinity Flow S1. Get one that supports the 5 kilo spools and just go. That would be the better option. Because you know what you need for that one to run? 0. You plug it in and it goes. I know that because I put one on the 2, and all you do is you run the PTFE tube from the S1 into your Cheetah, and it goes. Not your money being spent right now. I understand. I understand. I will converse with I will converse with them tomorrow. Yep. All right, gang. Like I said, I've had way too many nights this last week, 2 weeks, where I have not even left the shop and gone home until 11:30 midnight, and I want to go home and try to contemplate getting into bed before midnight. So I think that's where we're at. For those of you that are going to be here tomorrow, I look forward to seeing you. And let's take a quick gander, see who might be over on Twitch that we can run into. What? A Pezliz person is streaming? Uh, yep, here we go. That's what we're out right into Pezliz. Right into Pezliz. All right. So if you're watching this over on Twitch, please go along with me as we raid into Pezliz. She is an awesome content creator and 3D printer extraordinaire. She's the queen of filament swaps and the queen of imprinting color. If you're over on YouTube, sorry, I don't know how to raid you out to anybody else, but what I've seen over there are on both streams. So awesome sauce. Everybody, thanks for being here. I promise in the near future we'll have some better streams where we're doing more actual building work. Thank you for coming out, hanging out, chatting with me tonight. And I will see you all, some of you tomorrow during the Maker Meetup event. The rest of you I will see Tuesday evening. Thanks. Have a great night. Bye now.